Sometimes a question overshadows a 1,000-page report. Sometimes a number creates a silence that freezes the entire hall. And sometimes, the facial expression of the person at the podium tells much more than words. The question Kentucky Representative Thomas Massie posed to President Trump's senior advisor Stephen Miller was exactly such a moment. "Where is the $3.8 billion?" Massie asked, as if looking not at the files on the table, but directly into Miller's conscience. And Miller? Miller froze. These kinds of scenes constitute the most striking moments of American politics. Cameras are rolling, the microphone is on, eyes from every corner of the hall are locked on the podium. On one side, there's a congressman determined to hold someone accountable; on the other, an advisor who has encountered an unexpected question, racing against time to find an answer. Massie's question wasn't just about a number, of course. That number represented much more than a budget item. It was about trust, transparency, and accountability. The session had started calmly. Routine questions, standard answers, note-taking journalists. Everything was proceeding in the course of a classic congressional hearing. Until Massie took the floor. The Kentucky representative glanced at his papers, adjusted his glasses, and leaned into his microphone. His tone was calm, but the determination within him was felt in every syllable. "Mr. Miller," he said, "let's talk about the $3.8 billion allocation in the defense budget. Where did this money go?" The question was simple. The answer should have been simple too, at least in theory it should have been. But the expression on Miller's face revealed that things were not simple at all, that there was a big secret behind it. His eyes blinked for a moment, then he looked at his files. His advisor whispered something next to him, but Miller ignored it. Seconds stretched, the silence in the hall had frozen almost everyone. If you're also curious about the behind-the-scenes of such debates, we offer in-depth analyses every week. Stay tuned. "Mr. Miller, I'm listening to you," Massie said. The patience in his voice was rapidly eroding. Miller finally spoke. "Representative, this allocation was used for various operational needs." The answer was so general that it was as if he had said almost nothing. Massie's eyebrows furrowed. "Various operational needs? Mr. Miller, this is $3.8 billion. Saying various is not an adequate explanation. $3.8 billion may sound like a simple number. But this money is large enough to equal the annual budget of a small country. This money means a budget amount that could build homes for tens of thousands of families, construct hundreds of schools, pave thousands of kilometers of roads. And now, one of the most influential names in the White House cannot provide a satisfactory answer about where this resource went." Massie didn't give up. On the contrary, he increased the pressure. "All right, let's be more specific," he said, raising a document in his hand. "This document states that the said allocation was approved in the second quarter of fiscal year 2022. In 2 years, have you lost track of this money, or did you want to lose track?" The hall held its breath. Such questions are rarely asked this openly in Washington. Massie's manner was sharp but controlled, as if he had weighed and measured every word beforehand. Miller was becoming increasingly uncomfortable. "Representative, tracking such large budget items requires complex processes. We can get back to you with a detailed report if you wish." "A report?" Massie responded. His voice had become quite harsh. "Mr. Miller, we're not here to play around with reports. The American people's money is at stake. And you're telling me we'll prepare a report? Will you prepare in a few weeks the report you couldn't prepare in 2 years?" This dialogue was actually a symbol of a much broader problem: massive budgets, layered bureaucracy, and vague accountability. The federal budget swells by billions of dollars every year. Congress tries to track every item of these budgets it approves, but the complexity of the system sometimes exhausts even the most determined auditors. Massie is someone who knows the gaps in this system well. For years, he's been one of the rare names demanding transparency in federal spending. Beyond party lines, he has a stance advocating that every penny of spending must be accounted for. And the question he posed to Miller was a reflection of this stance. Miller's situation was quite difficult. On one hand, he's trying to defend the massive structure of the administration. On the other hand, he's clearly struggling to track down a specific number. Mr. Miller, Massie continued, you can give me general explanations here, but the public expects concrete answers from you. Which projects did the $3.8 billion go to? Which contractors received it? In which regions was it spent? These aren't difficult questions. Of course, such debates aren't limited to congressional halls. The incident started spreading on social media instantly. The hashtag #38millionaire became a trending topic. Hundreds of comments, analyses, conspiracy theories. Some applauded Massie, some defended Miller, and some just said, that's how the system works, and moved on. But there was an unchanging truth. The fate of a massive sum like $3.8 billion had to be explained transparently. Continue to follow us to not miss these critical issues where politics and economics intersect. Massie's question wasn't just chasing after a number, this was about questioning the functioning of the system, demanding accountability, and protecting the citizens' rights. Miller finally tried to provide a slightly more detailed explanation. Representative, a significant portion of this allocation was allocated to the logistical needs of our overseas operations. A portion was also channeled into technological renewals and infrastructure projects. Logistical needs, Massie repeated. Technological renewals. Mr. Miller, these are still general definitions. This is what I want from you. What percentage of this money went to which country? Which companies got which contracts? These aren't classified information, they're data that should be public. Right. The tension between Massie and Miller was actually a reflection of a larger crisis of trust. The public naturally expects massive expenditures financed by their own taxes to be transparent. But most of the time, complex reports, technical jargon, and layered bureaucracy blur this transparency. And it's in moments like these that the role of politicians like Massie comes to the fore. They bring questions lost within the system back to the agenda, remind about forgotten numbers, and corner officials. Miller's answers may not be satisfactory, but at least the issue is now on the table. In later parts of the session, other members of Congress also joined the topic. Some stood by Massie's side, requesting more detailed information. Others tried to change the agenda with questions that would give Miller a chance to breathe. But the damage was done. Massie's question, where is the $3.8 billion, had now become perhaps the most memorable sentence of the session. When the session ended, Miller quickly left the hall. Journalists ran after him, showered him with questions, but he didn't answer any of them. Massie, on the other hand, came out more calmly and gave a brief statement to journalists. The American people have the right to know where their money is going. It's that simple. It really is that simple. But its application, as seen, is not simple at all. Tracking down a number like $3.8 billion means countless documents, dozens of departments, and hundreds of transactions. But this difficulty cannot be a reason to stop asking the question. Massie's question will probably be debated for days, even weeks. Some will praise him, some will criticize him. But in the end, another issue will have come to light. And perhaps, the administration will be a little more careful, a little more transparent. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter to be the first to learn about such critical developments and access in-depth analyses. Because every session in Washington, every question, every frozen moment is actually about your rights, your money. And as long as names like Massie continue to defend these rights, officials like Miller will continue to be held accountable. Where is the $3.8 billion? Maybe we'll find out soon. Maybe we won't. But at least, the question was asked. And that's much more valuable than not asking it at all. Don't forget to like our video, subscribe to the channel, and share your valuable comments with us.